A single man once offered the United States a brutal deal: pay his ransom, or he would systematically drown their nation in poison. It was 1977. His name was condor. At the peak of his power, no individual on Earth moved more heroin. Nearly half of the supply on American streets originated in his remote jungle laboratories. Countless overdoses could be traced back to his product. Yet, the most unsettling truth is that the very agency tasked with protecting America played a part in creating him. The CIA, through its covert operations, supplied and trained the proxy forces that would become his unwitting tutors. They armed the monster who would later hold a superpower hostage. Washington's response was absolute: a multi-million-dollar bounty, a federal indictment, and the largest international narcotics operation ever launched. For 2 decades, they hunted him. He outlived them all, dying peacefully in 2007, surrounded by wealth and family, never once seeing the inside of an American prison. How did a warlord from the Highlands defeat the world's greatest power, and what made him truly untouchable? We must go back to the Golden Triangle of 1950, where the borders of Burma, Laos, and Thailand merge into a lawless expanse of mountains and jungle. Here, power was the only currency. The dominant force was the remnants of Chiang Kai-shek's defeated army, thousands of stranded, stateless soldiers secretly financed and armed by American intelligence. Washington saw them as a useful tool against communist expansion. What they didn't see was a young, observant half-Shan, half-Chinese boy named Chiang Kai-fu. Watching every training exercise from the shadows, he absorbed every lesson: weapons handling, jungle ambush tactics, terrain analysis. More importantly, he learned how violence could be converted into profit, and profit into legitimate power. The CIA's proxies were, without knowing it, training their own greatest future adversary. By his 20s, he commanded a small, ruthless militia. He began with simple protection rackets, extorting opium farmers in isolated villages with no law to protect them. But Chiang Kai-fu thought differently. He didn't just want a piece of the trade. He envisioned controlling the entire system from the poppy fields to the global distributors. In 1963, he made a pivotal deal. The Burmese military needed a militia to combat communist rebels near the Chinese border. He offered his services. In return, they granted him something invaluable: official immunity. The Burmese state had just handed a future drug kingpin his license to operate. Within years, his private army was better equipped than the national military. But regional dominance wasn't enough. In 1967, he made his bid for the throne. A massive caravan, 500 armed men and 300 mules laden with raw opium, marched into territory controlled by his former mentors, the very forces that trained him. This wasn't competition, it was a declaration of war. The convoy was ambushed at a place called Vikan. Rival warlords attacked from one side, Laotian army units from another, hoping to seize the priceless shipment. Then, Laotian bombers filled the sky. When the smoke cleared, Chiang Kai-fu's fortune was gone. His men dead or scattered. He escaped into the jungle with only a few survivors, his reputation shattered. His enemies celebrated his end. In 1969, believing he was finished, the Burmese government lured him into a trap and arrested him for treason. At 35, he was thrown into a Mandalay prison cell. His empire was presumed dead. But within those concrete walls, a profound transformation began. For 5 years of solitude, he studied. He devoured texts on strategy, especially Sun Tzu's The Art of War. He internalized a cold philosophy: in politics and power, there are no permanent allies or enemies, only shifting interests. Sentiment and loyalty were liabilities. He emerged not as a defeated warlord, but as a pure, calculating strategist. Meanwhile, his loyalists on the outside executed a breathtaking plan. They kidnapped 2 Soviet doctors and demanded his freedom as ransom. Faced with a Cold War diplomatic crisis, the Burmese government capitulated. In 1974, he walked out of prison a free man and crossed into Thailand. Within 2 years, he rebuilt his operation entirely. He adopted a new name, Khonsa, meaning Prince Prosperous in Shan. But his real masterstroke was a narrative shift. He reinvented himself as a freedom fighter, a revolutionary champion for the oppressed Shan people. He built schools, clinics, and roads. By wrapping his criminal empire in a flag of liberation, he gained a population willing to protect him. By the late 1970s, he commanded the Shan United Army from a fortified Thai base. Tolerated by Thai generals as a useful buffer against communists, he discovered that if you wrap your crimes in a flag, people will die to protect you. Then, in 1977, he made his infamous proposal to the United States. Through intermediaries, he offered Congress a deal. Pay him $100 million for his entire opium stockpile, invest in Shan development, and he would retire. The unspoken threat was clear: pay up, or I will flood your cities. Washington refused, calling it blackmail. Khansa had expected this. The offer was never genuine. It was a declaration of war. His next move would be an industrial escalation of the drug trade. The 1980s saw him create a true narco-state from his new headquarters at Homong, deep inside Burma. He unified Shan warlords under his Mong Thai army banner, over 30,000 soldiers armed with heavy weapons. He established a government, tax collection, even a parliament. But his real weapon was chemistry. Dozens of hidden laboratories refined raw opium into heroin of unprecedented lethal purity, up to 90%. Before him, street heroin was diluted to 3 to 5% purity. His product was a poison 20 times stronger. Produced on an industrial scale, Golden Triangle opium output skyrocketed to over 2,500 tons a year. By 1989, his heroin dominated the American market, accounting for an estimated 40% of all supply entering the United States. He was killing Americans by the thousands and amassing a fortune. Yet within his territory, he was a benevolent leader. When journalists dared to visit, he presented himself as a simple businessman meeting demand, with all profits funding the Shan cause. Burmese military campaigns against him failed, largely because senior officers were on his payroll. His protection wasn't just his army, it was systemic corruption. In 1988, with the U.S. loudly waging its war on drugs, Khansa staged his own press conference in the jungle. On camera, he repeated his $100 million offer and taunted the D directly. The U.S. responded with a $2 million bounty. They scored major busts, like intercepting 2,400 kilos of his heroin. They convinced Thailand to assault his base. He vanished each time, always rebuilding, stronger. But the 1990s brought new, existential threats. The Wa militia, a rival ethnic group covertly backed by a now hostile Burmese junta, began seizing his territory. Simultaneously, Operation Tiger Trap, a massive D-sting, dismantled his international networks, arresting his top lieutenants. For the first time, he was squeezed militarily, logistically, and politically. His health was failing. Analysts predicted a violent, final siege. Then, on January 5, 1996, he delivered a stunning finale. Khansa surrendered, not to America or Thailand, but to the Burmese government he had fought for decades. There was no battle. He walked into an army camp and negotiated his retirement. The terms were stark. He disbanded his army and exited the drug trade. In return, Burma guaranteed he would never be extradited. He kept his vast fortune and was allowed to live freely within the country. The United States demanded his extradition, but Burma, with no such treaty and deep anti-American sentiment, refused. He found the one place on earth where American power simply could not reach. He moved to a comfortable villa in Yangon, reinvesting his wealth into real estate, bus companies, and gem mining. To the occasional journalist, he was just a retired businessman. He died of natural causes on October 26, 2007, at age 73. The man responsible for so much American suffering never faced an American court. His story is a dark lesson in unintended consequences, geopolitical pragmatism, and the chilling power of a flawless, immoral strategy. If you found this tale of power and evasion gripping, show your support. A like helps the channel Winds of Thought bring you more deep dive stories from history's shadows. And subscribe so you don't miss what's next.